Joining me now is Niall Stanage, White House columnist with our partners at The Hill. Niall, great as always to see you. So we just heard Nancy's report there. Is this mostly political posturing, or is there a real threat of some potential forthcoming charges?
It's mostly posturing, in my view, Nichole. This is really kind of throwing shapes or trash talk, in a sense, between Governor Newsom and Governor DeSantis. Now, that is not to deny that there are huge political differences between the two men, including on the issue of migration. But the question of whether there would actually be criminal charges brought against a sitting governor and a candidate for president, that seems highly unlikely to me. I think it's more a rhetorical device rather than anything else.
All right, so more political posturing. Well, speaking of such, Niall, Governor DeSantis, as we know, has allocated millions to Florida's, quote, unauthorized alien transport program. He is very much stood firm in his stance when it comes to immigration in Florida, in the U.S. DeSantis has not claimed responsibility for these flights, but how could this potentially affect his campaign? Because right now, Governor DeSantis obviously wants to appeal to conservatives. He's not trying to appeal to California's governor.
That's exactly right. I mean, the fact of the matter is that in a Republican primary in 2023 or 2024, you don't lose any votes by being hard on immigration. The incentive is to adopt a firm, strong position on that. And that is particularly the case, Nichole, in the case of someone like Governor DeSantis, who in fact has been trying to position himself to former President Trump's right on other issues as well, you know, abortion or the culture war issues. So if this controversy does indeed sort of trace its way back to Governor DeSantis, it's not necessarily a politically bad thing for him in the Republican primary. Now, if he becomes the Republican nominee, if he's seeking to win a general election, then it's more debatable. But right now, it's not a bad thing for him from a political standpoint.
All right, so Niall, you just mentioned Trump there, and you know, for the longest time, Trump was bashing, would have plenty of things to say about Governor DeSantis. Governor DeSantis has only recently started to respond to some of that. But speaking of this, shifting to this, what message is he sending by so far not commenting on Governor Newsom's tweet?
I think it's a silence that speaks volumes. You know, presumably, if Florida had nothing to do with these flights, it would be quite easy for Governor DeSantis to come out and say that. He has not done so. He, in his silence, has allowed the controversy to build, the story to build, even allowed a degree of intrigue, if that isn't too cheap a word, to enter into this whole debate. So it is an intriguing move by him, and it clearly fuels the assumption that the state of Florida does indeed have something to do with these flights.
Well, now, this last question is a bit of opinion, but obviously you cover politics extensively. We know states all across the country right now trying to figure out how to house, how to allocate resources for these incoming migrants. Do you think we'll continue to see more of this type of back and forth play out as this migrant crisis seemingly continues?
Yes, I don't think there's any doubt about that, because you have two related factors. One is the substantive nature of the migrant crisis, where just in December, for example, the number of crossings or encounters at the southern border reached an all-time high. So there are a lot of people involved in this. The city of New York alone has seen 60,000 migrants come into the city. So obviously it's a big issue substantively, but a very hot issue politically as well. A lot of people on both sides can make political capital out of this issue. That may be unfortunate, but it's not going to change anytime soon. This is going to be on the front burner for a while.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.